When is the release date for the second episode of the Amazing Digital Circus? Hello everyone. So far we don't have any news about the second episode of our digital circus, but I can say 100% that in December we should not wait for the continuation. But I think that everyone is interested in the approximate release date of the new episode, and in this video together with you, I will try to understand and give you an answer to the question from the beginning of the video. First I will give you my opinion and then I will discuss some options of my subscribers. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like and comment, and here we go. Let's go through each of the following months one by one, and we should start with January. I will give facts to prove that the release can take place in a certain month, and facts why we should not wait for the release at this time. As I said before, the release will definitely not take place in December, but we can still consider January as a potential release month for the new episode of the Amazing Digital Circus. And the first argument in favor of the release is the popularity of the project, which is still at a high level. Of course, you can't compare it with the indicators of mid-November, when the pilot episode was getting about 15-20 million views per day, but even now our digital circus is getting about 3-4 million views per day, which is also very good. And to miss such a powerful hype that will surely come with the release of the new episode is clearly not a good idea. Besides, with the release of the second episode in January, the creators of the digital circus can finally gain a foothold at the top of 3D animation on YouTube. Now let's get to the problems that will not allow the Team Glitch and Gooseworx to release a new episode in January. First of all, the most important factor of success, and at the same time, the most important problem is the quality of animation, which the creators have raised to an unrealistically high level. To maintain this level of animation requires a huge amount of effort, money, and time. And since we know for sure that no work was done on the second episode before the release of the Amazing Digital Circus pilot, then to create the same quality episode with a length of 20 minutes will not be enough 3 months. But if you try to spend 70% of the day working on a digital circus, you can expect the release in January. There is also another important detail that makes a huge contribution to the fact that we can't wait for the January release. But for the sake of intrigue, I don't want to tell you about it yet, so I advise you to watch this video to the end to find out about it. But maybe I'll tell you about it much sooner. As a result of January, I can say that the chance that the second episode will be released in January is about 25%, which in the realities of the modern world of 3D animation is almost zero. February. We realize that we probably won't see the sequel in January, but February looks like a more realistic month for the release of the second episode, because the popularity of the pilot episode will still be preserved, so the time for a new big hype will be preserved. And there will be much more time for quality preparation, because in 1 month you can make about 6 to 7 minutes of final animation. And this makes it much easier for the animation team, which is the last thing you want to rush, because in that case, the quality will be much worse. Now let's talk again about what will prevent the release of the second episode, and it's all about time. It's too little time for the release to be as high quality as the authors would like it to be. And now let's reveal the secret, which is the key factor that will prevent the release of the second episode during the winter. At their presentation, Glitch stated that they are working hard on the first season final of their other project, Murder Drones. Despite the fact that the drones do not have even 10% of the same popularity that the digital circus has gained, yet within YouTube, Drones is a very successful project that has a huge number of fans waiting for the continuation of their favorite show. And their Glitch cannot just stand aside and let all their forces to work on the Amazing Digital Circus. And working on 2 huge projects at the same time takes a lot of time, which also distances use from the release date of the second episode of the Digital Circus. But still, popularity is a very strong driving force of any show, and no animation team ever wants to lose its strengthened position. Based on all this, it's impossible to say exactly how big the chance of a February release is, so I'll give it 50%, because on the one hand, there's a huge amount of resources and work being spent on another project right now, and on the other hand, we have just crazy popularity, which is really the engine of hard work and a huge motivator. And let's think about March, which I think is the most likely month for a release. I don't want to talk about time, but we all know that 2.5 months is a really big time frame that will allow the writers to not only finish the drone final. If you're interested in this show, write about it in the comments, and I'll consider doing an analysis of episodes 7 and 8 of Murder Drones. So not only will the writers be able to finish the drone final, but in a completely relaxed and unplugged atmosphere, they will be able to finish the second episode of the Digital Circus and possibly start production on episode 3. But as a YouTube content creator myself, I can safely say that deadlines are often missed and work on any project takes much longer than expected. I am sure that in the minds of animators who create drones and Digital Circus, in addition to financial gain, There is a strong desire to make the best product on the market, with which no one will be able to compete in the near future, so I have a strong belief that they will definitely not rush with the release of episodes and will work very hard on every detail that will be in the series. But the factor of popularity should not be excluded, because by March, the Digital Circus can lose and weaken its position, which means that the new episode may not get even 30–40% of the same success that the pilot episode received, and therefore in the heads of the main animators will strengthen the idea that the longer they will delay the release of the sequel, the worse the result they will get in the end. Therefore, in my opinion, March is the deadline for the release of the second episode of the Amazing Digital Circus, so I give 85% that the release will be in March. Well, if we talk about April, by that moment will be released the 7th episode of Murder Drones. The popularity of the Digital Circus will finally begin to fade, and the time for the final preparation of the second episode of the Digital Circus will be quite enough. So if not March, then in April we will 100% see the second episode, but unfortunately too long waiting will weaken the interest of a large number of fandom, which will also negatively affect the views. But I think that this is unlikely to be an obstacle for animators. Well, as I promised, let's discuss the opinion of the channel's subscribers. Some think that we should not wait for the release before August. Someone thinks more abstractly and calls the release date is the summer, not a certain month. Someone is in solidarity with me and believes that the release will take place in March, and someone based on the history of releases Murder Drones sure that we should not wait for the release before October-December 2024. I'd like to talk first about those who think that the release will take place no earlier than early summer 2024. This version has a right to exist, but again, the Glitch and Gooseworx team is no fool and realizes that such a long wait will completely ruin their ideal project. And as for those who are based on drones, I can only say that these people are pessimists and are based on the realities of the world of 2021. The world has changed a lot in these 2 years, including YouTube, and now you can't just not release anything for a year and build up the interest and loyalty of the audience as easily as it was a few years ago. After all, now on YouTube itself there is a huge number of different channels that are ready to take the place of the giant, if he even a little relaxed. So then think to yourself, will Glitch and Gooseworx in such a rapidly changing world and trends so long to wait for what? Because as I said before, waiting for the viewer completely destroys interest and it only costs some new show to appear soon, then everyone will immediately forget about the Digital Circus and start watching and become part of the fandom of some other project. Having this information, we can say that the earliest date is likely to be March 2024, but the ideal would be January 2024. Let's believe in a miracle and wait for the earliest release of our favorite show. But this is not the end of the video, so don't rush to watch it. I'd like to talk to you about what will happen to the Digital Circus in general after the release of the second episode. I have a strong belief that even the release of the second episode of the Digital Circus in March will still be able to make noise on our favorite video hosting, which means that the Amazing Digital Circus will get a second life and can finally gain a foothold at the top of the Olympus of 3D animation. And already realizing its previous mistakes, the release of the second episode will not be until most of the third episode is ready, and so on. Most likely we will get a very popular and long, perhaps in several seasons, the story of an amazing circus and its no less amazing characters. The beloved Pomni, Bully Jax, Crybaby Gangle, Crazy Kinger, Kind Ragatha, and Mysterious Zubul. Or perhaps we will show some new character that will eclipse all the previous ones. But how to eclipse Pomni I do not understand, and probably will never understand in my life. Write in the comments your opinion on the release date of the second episode. Well, I want to wish you good luck and success, and say see you soon in the new videos that will appear every 2 days.